proud of our guys for responding on Saturday and just playing much better football, cleaner football. It's a good win. Played a lot of guys. Really would have liked to play more. Kind of just a weird game in the second half. We didn't have very many offensive plays. But a good win. I think those games are hard sometimes because you're not only supposed to win, but you're supposed to win by a lot. And Albany is a good team. They're going to have a successful FCS season, and they're really well coached. And so sometimes there's some undue pressure, so it's hard to go out and perform. But I thought our guys did that. Kind of just I'll quickly recap the game, and I know everybody wants to move on to Pitt, but just think it's important that we do that. I'll hit the highs and lows. I'll go low, like things we've got to get better at. Starting just team-wise, we lost the game last week in the middle 8, and that's the last 4 minutes of the first half, first 4 minutes of the second half. I think it was 3-14. We had a chance to score, and then Penn State scored, and we lost it 3-14. That's really where the game got away from us. As poorly as we played, we still had a chance up until that. And this week we come back, we win 14-7, had a really good stop, scored on both our scored touchdowns on both of the possessions end of the half and the beginning of the second half. So much improved there. I think special teams wise we got to get better at. Wasn't really fired up about our field goal block team. We're usually pretty good on that. We didn't get lined up correctly. Our field goal team, we played some more guys on that. We got to be better. And then kickoff. We didn't kick the ball well enough. Mike's got to be better than he was on Saturday evening. And we let one, I think, get back to either 29 or 30-yard line. Our kickoff return, muffed the kickoff return to start. That should never happen. And then we had an explosive punt block, but really if our guys got on them, we had a chance to bring that one back. So some poor technique. Positives are Ali is really punting the ball well, and our team speed is showing on our punt coverage as well as our kickoff coverage. We ran well kickoff. We were physical. The one they got out, we had 5 or 6 subs in. Kickoff return, we had one really good return. If we could have finished the block, it would have been explosive. And then I said on punt block, we got an explosive return. And Preston continues to be a good weapon back there. Defensively, the things that weren't good enough, I think we talked about this, but our pass coverage and our corners didn't play well enough, and really our zone coverage stuff was just off. Our drops weren't where they needed to be, and that's really our spear, our linebackers, our underneath stuff just wasn't good enough, and we didn't get any takeaways. The positives, we were really good on fourth down, and we were really good in the red zone, and so they had some drives, but we put out the fire on fourth downs, and then they only scored one time in the red zone. So those are both positives. And then they only 68 rushing yards in the entire game. And so that's what we want to do first and foremost is stop the run, and we did that. Offensively, the fumble was the big negative, and that's our 4th turnover in 2 games, which should never be the case. And that's the thing we got to get fixed. And then we really had 2 unproductive drives. We had the turnover on a explosive run on one play, and then we had a 3 and out. And those both led to 14 points. And so other than that, we were really efficient passing the ball. I thought Garrett, that's the best fundamentals he's played with. We were 20 of 26. We had 2 drops and 9.5 yards every time we threw it. That's really good. We had 305 yards rushing, 9.5 yards per rush. That's really high. And then we were 5 of 6 on end-of-possession downs. Sometimes third downs are overrated. The best time you don't want to play third downs. We didn't play very well the week before, and we had all those third downs. Played pretty well this week, and we didn't have very many. And then we were really good on fourth down. And then we scored touchdowns all 5 times. Every time we were in the red zone, we scored touchdowns, which was good. We give awards. Y'all know that when we win. These are the guys that we recognize within our team. Offensive lineman of the week was Wyatt Milam. He was highest graded, was really dominant in the game. Our special teams player was Ben Cutter. Played 12 snaps, had a tackle, really good on the kickoff return team. He starts on kickoff return, punt, and kickoff, and did a nice job. Defensive player of the week was Reed Carrico. He had 4 tackles, a TFL, 2 big fourth down tackles. Excited about what he's doing. Offensive player of the week was C.J. Donaldson. Thought he really ran hard. 2 weeks in a row he's played well. 8.9 yards per carry. He's starting on 2 special teams as well. Made a play on kickoff. We give the blue collar award for guys that kind of do the dirty work. Maybe don't show up in the stat sheet as much, but played well. Fatorma on defense, and he's doing a nice job. Thought he played his best game Saturday. And then on offense, Nick Malone and Traylon Davis. Traylon Davis is playing at a high level, doing a nice job. And then our developmental players, offense was Greg Genross, tight end. He's going to be a good player, just kind of getting acquainted to how we want to do things. Developmental guy on defense was Curtis Jones, who is going to be a really good player here, playing linebacker for really the first time and learning that. And then on special teams, developmental guy was Donovan Grayson, who's a redshirt freshman for us, did a nice job. And so those are the awards for this week. Kind of flipping over to Pitt. Huge game, obviously one that our fans always circle. Backyard Brawl, one of the best rivalries in all of college sports. But I don't think there's any doubt about that. First time back in Acrisure Stadium since the disappointment back in 22. That's still very fresh on our minds. On mine, I can't speak for our players, but on mine it is. I respect the rivalry. We have a tremendous amount of respect for the rivalry in this building, for the Pitt program. Really what Coach Narduzzi's done there. They're playing very well. They're 2-0, coming off a huge win at Cincinnati, and they're 2-0 and probably haven't played their best, and so they're going to have a lot of confidence going into the game on Saturday. Start with special teams. New coordinator from Miami, Ohio, very well coached there. They had the top special teams efficiency in the country last year at Miami, Ohio. Got a really good kicker. He hit the game winner last week, hit a 50-yarder. He's talented, really high touchback percentage. Not very many opportunities when he's kicking off. Their punt returner is the running back. He's the Reed, Desmond Reed. He's been electric. He had a 78-yard touchdown versus Kent State in the opener. On kickoff return, Kenny Johnson, the receiver, who's a sophomore. He had a 100-yard return last year versus North Carolina. Really good player. We're going to have to cover. And they're aggressive. They blocked a bunch of kicks when he was at Miami, Ohio. And so we're going to have to be prepared for that. Offensively, complete 180. They changed coordinators and credit Coach Narduzzi. He's gone all in. They're high tempo. They're playing as fast as anybody. Remind me of Texas Tech a few years ago. They're balanced. They're rushing for almost 200. They're throwing it for over 3. The quarterback, who's a redshirt freshman, has been really efficient. Impressed with how he's ran. He'll probably be excited after watching our tape because quarterbacks have been able to run versus us. So he's done a nice job of that through 2 weeks. I talked about the running back, Reed. He's a big-time player. Similar to Jaheim in a lot of different ways. They find a bunch of ways of getting the ball. Talked about him as a punt returner. They hand it to him. They throw it to him. Really fast, tough tackle. Deep group at wideout. The Mumfield kid who's been there now, I think this is his 3rd year, transferred from Akron. He's playing at a high level. And Kenny Johnson, who I talked about, Sincere Lee, those guys, Raphael Williams, who transferred from San Diego State, that's a really good group, and they can run. And then Bartholomew, who's been there for a really long time, pass receiving tight end, he's a threat. And I'm really impressed with the tackles. I think their tackles are playing well. 2 really big guys, future NFL players, those guys are playing well. And they've got a lot of confidence. You can see it on their tape. You can see it as they built in the second half. And then defensively, it's a typical Pitt defense. Very aggressive, play a lot of match quarters, cover man. The D-line's really aggressive. They move. They're moving maybe more than they have, playing a lot of guys up front. Their linebackers. Well, go back to the defensive line. A few of those guys have been there for a long time. And they've been really well coached on the D-line for a long time. Defensively, number 9, their star, is making a bunch of plays. They're using him to pressure, and he's been all over the field. And then both safeties are playing at a high level, and they played well against us last year. And then they're gonna put their corners on our wideouts, and that's going to be a huge matchup in the game. There's really no surprise on what they're going to do. They do what they do, and they've been doing it for a long time at a high level. And so our group's excited about the opportunity. and to take part in a rivalry game. Another opportunity for us. The last rivalry game we were in, we did not show up. We did not participate at a very high level. So we're thankful for the opportunity to get back in the arena on Saturday and go up to Pitt and play in the Backyard Brawl. So with that, I'll take questions.
So, Neal, your third Pitt game. Mm-hmm. What have you learned about it? How the emotions affect the game? Crowd affects the game?
Yeah, crowd will be into it. It'll be a great atmosphere. It's a great atmosphere last time we were here, or we were there. Great atmosphere here last year. There's a lot of familiarity. It's probably a little bit different than it was, 20 years ago. But there's a lot of familiarity. We know a lot of guys on their roster. They know a lot of guys on our roster. This is one that's extremely important to the fans. Our players understand that. This is a game that's of super high importance to our fan base. For us in here, we respect the rivalry, and I think it's what makes college football great. But for us, it's about getting 2-1 and getting another win as we get into conference play. And it's a tough opponent. It's our second high level opponent, and then from here on out, we play good people every week. And so it's a challenge, but our guys are very aware of the emotions that are going to be in the building.
You mentioned the 3, McMillan, right? Plays the boundary. What do you see in him that you like?
Well, we saw a lot of him last year. He had a bunch of tackles. I don't remember how many, but it was 15 or more last year. He had a lot. He's a kid that we knew in high school. He went to Florida, did a really good job down there, played a lot of special teams, and then he started since he's been there. Physical kid. The other safety's really good too. McIntyre, he's played a lot of football there. They use him in a bunch of different ways. Two high level safeties.
In terms of skill set, Reed, is he like the complete opposite from what you saw from Rodney Hammond the last 2 years?
Well, Hammond's a good player too, but Reed is a guy that he's really fast. He's quick. He's a tough tackle. Again, not real big, not big enough. You can tell he's got good lower body strength. But man, they take wide splits with the receivers a lot, and he's had a lot of space the first 2 weeks, and he's made the most of it.
You mentioned the Penn State game didn't go well, despite all the hype and everything going into that. Are there any lessons from that experience that you're trying to take into this one in terms of how the players, because you said also at the time you weren't expecting the players to respond that way, but they did.
Yeah. Well, the biggest lesson is play better. We got to play a lot better. I just think that you learn when things don't go your way, and it obviously didn't go our way there. You got to learn, and we corrected some mistakes from last week, and we got to continue. And this happens to be the next opportunity. This is the next time that we're on national TV. It's the next time that we're playing opponent that means something to our fans. It's the next opportunity on a big stage to go out and perform. We got to do it better. And so I think that's what we're talking about.
You mentioned your fans and the importance thereof of them being there. Did you watch the Steeler game yesterday at all?
No.
Well,
But I got some things going on.
Took over the stadium down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Could your fans do that?
I don't know. We had a bunch of people. You're opening up a can of worms. First of all, there's a ton of Steeler fans everywhere. I've learned that just traveling since I've been here. I probably didn't pay as much attention when I lived other places, but as I've lived here, I've really noticed that there's a lot of Steelers fans. Now, I was proud that Steelers won because 2 of our guys played really well, but I just saw the highlights. I didn't watch the game. No, I think there'll be a West Virginia presence. What percentage, I have no idea. Pitt's fans really turned out last time we were there. It was a great atmosphere. The game didn't go the way we wanted to. There's not a lot of positive memories for me from that game, but it was a tremendous atmosphere, and our people will find a way in.
Your pass coverage, how do you improve?
Well, first of all, we got to play with better technique. At corner, we just didn't play very. We've got guys that can play, and they've played well before. Trying to do too much. not eyes aren't in the right spots. And then we just didn't play good team pass coverage. And what I mean by that, we're primarily a zone team, and our underneath droppers just weren't where they're supposed to be, and I'm talking about our Mike and our Will and our Spear. A lot of times our spur to the boundary is a drop defender. And we've got really firm rules about where they're supposed to be, and they just weren't there. And some of it was they were looking in the backfield too much, and we coach them to sprint to their drop and then look back. And so disappointing, but correctable, at the same time.
What changed for Pitt at Cincinnati?
Well, I think that, they've got a redshirt freshman quarterback, and this is his second game as a starter. Cincinnati has gone to the 3 safety defense, which is unique. Our guys are probably a little bit more familiar with it because in the Big 12 you see it. There's not as many teams in the ACC running it, and it takes a little bit of time. And so, he was pushing the ball downfield early and then figured it out and really started using his legs. And then he created some explosive plays with his legs in the second half. And also they broke some tackles, and they got the ball to Reed, and they moved the ball early and then kind of went in a lull there in the second quarter, but then played really well in the second half.
Without Vesterinen, just kind of numbers approach,
Yeah.
building with a bunch of different people.
So if he's not able to go, then TJ Jackson, who's probably been our most productive D lineman through 2 weeks, he'll get the start. And then, we'll miss Eddie. We'll miss his leadership. We'll miss the motor he plays with. But we've got guys up there. Sonny Redwood's reps will increase. Sean Martin's got some flexibility, play the field and the boundary. He did that in the game. We'll continue to move him around. Hammond Russell's role will increase, and he's playing. I've been really pleased how he's played through 2 weeks. So his role will increase. We hate it for Eddie, but we've got a room there that we got enough guys that are quality players to be able to pick up the slack.
How much can you even use from last year's game or even 2 years game? Because as she brought up, the Pitt roster, Pitt team's so different. In this era, it seems like it's harder to use film.
It is. Now the thing about it is, defensively they are who they are, and I think, and I say that in a real positive manner because they've played quality defense for a long time, and I think some of the real genius of what they do is from a structure standpoint, they can align, and then regardless of the pieces they have. The structure is the same, but they can move the pieces in a bunch of different ways, especially up front on the D line. So you can use a little bit just defensively, special teams and their offense. You're right, though; it's completely different.
A lot of the players you mentioned about getting them in and trying to see guys on defense. A lot of those were in early. Nate Gabriel, we got both of your Spurs. I think guys in the back end. Is some of that building towards potential who might play more this week and coming weeks? Well,
Nate Gabriel's going to continue to play. I should have mentioned when Mike asked that question. I should have mentioned him as well because he did. We got him in second or third series, and he can play. He's big enough. I thought he got some good push, and so where Hammond's got some position flex that where he can play in the boundary as well, and then Nate can come in and play the nose for us, and so. Was pleased with him. Elijah Kinsler is another guy that we got in as a true freshman. I think that his role will have to increase if Eddie V is going to miss any time. And then at corner, we played Crandall, Fagan, Spells, and we're going to have some competition there for some reps. If things aren't going good, you don't just continue doing the same thing. So, we're going to have some competition for some reps. I thought all three of those guys, Fagan had 2 penalties, and they were the correct calls. He's got to fix that, but I like his aggressiveness. And I thought Spells did some nice things coming off an injury at the end of the game.
You mentioned corner. How do you feel about your safety play so far?
Yeah, Anthony Wilson, I think's flashed. Jaheim Joseph's been consistent. I thought KK played a lot better in game 2 than he did game 1, so that's encouraging. Aiden Nelson got in, and that's somebody that we need because athletically he can do it. He just needs some, it's really only 2 years into playing the position, so he's still learning, but he's a guy athletically that can do it. But we've got to continue to get better at all those positions in secondary.
You gave awards to both your tackles this past week, but sometimes overlooked, I think, how important it is. Last year you had, Nestor and Wyatt. And, this year, how does this group, these two guys, work together?
Yeah, well, I think Wyatt's one of the better tackles in college football. He continues to show that week to week. And then Nick Malone, he played well, made some critical errors in the Penn State game. He came back. I thought he was really consistent this week. Didn't have any critical errors. His footwork was better. He's just got to continue to come on. Like, he's really athletic. I mean, he can move well. You got to remember he's played a lot. He played a bunch of snaps for us at tight end, the 2 previous years as well. But no, I'm pleased with that. And Johnny Williams has played both games. And then Xavier Bosley got in. He's got to get stronger, but he's got a good future as well. So I feel good about our tackle positions. I think that we're in better position than a lot of people. And I thought Brandon Yates, as we're talking about our front guys, I thought Brandon Yates, he played well and pleased where he's going. And I think he'll continue to get better the more snaps he gets.
You mentioned them moving around parts. I think they've had 8 sacks by all different people. Mm-hmm. Is that on Garrett? How do you ID that? How do you go about dealing when you got guys coming from different places?
Well, you got to handle movement, and that's the thing. They're going to move the front, and they're playing a little bit different up front than they have, and they're moving a bunch. The thing that sticks out when you turn on their film, and I turned on their film toward the end of last week, and they play really hard, and that's a credit to their staff. They play extremely, extremely hard. And then they're doing a nice job with their edge pressure. The number 9, the star linebacker, they use him in most of their blitz stuff, and he's got a great knack for it. And so he's creating a lot of the pressure. And so but yeah, they're playing really hard, and you got to be able to handle the movement up front, and you got to be able to handle their pressure, especially from the edge.
You mentioned their offense reminding you of Texas Tech from a few years ago. Can you expand on that a little bit?
No, they're just playing really fast. They're playing really fast. They're using wide splits. They're a little bit different each week, but the tempo is what sets them apart.
Neal, the Brawl's off the books after next year. I think until 28 or 29. Mm-hmm. You talked about how important it is to play this series every year.
Yeah. Well, we got to get our schedule fixed, and we're in the process of kind of doing that. But, yeah, I think it's a series that needs to be played. It's important. I think Pitt wants to play it. We want to play it. It's college football is so up in the air. Nobody really knows what the future looks like. So, but if we stay on this where you play 9 conference games and you play another Power 5, I think it makes sense I don't want to speak for them, but I know it makes sense for us to play the game. Close proximity. It's a great TV audience. The fans on both sides are excited about it. And so if you look at us moving forward, as soon as we get through with this little run here, is, to me, it's 9 conference games, it's Pitt, it's an FCS, and it's a group of 5. And preferably the FCS and the group of 5 need to be at home. And that gives us an opportunity to have 7 home games every year, which was what we need to do.
Is it the process of getting it fixed?
We're in the process.
Scheduled?
Yeah. Hell, we got Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, that ain't fixed.
When a head coach or a new coordinator comes in and is kind of reinventing the wheel a little bit, especially if coming from a different level too.
Yeah.
How much commitment from the head coach and the coordinator does that take to
It takes a ton of commitment. That's what I recognized Coach Narduzzi, because it does. It's entirely different than what he's done. And he's had a number of coordinators, and he's had some high level coordinators, guys that have done a lot in college football and in the NFL. And this is different. This is totally unique for him. And for a defensive guy to go to this style, you can tell. There's all the assistants on the offensive side are connected to Coach Bell, and so you can tell he's gone all in, and that's how they're playing, and they're committed to it. And it's a huge commitment. And so I credit because he's not dipping his toe in it. He's gone all in, and they're playing extremely, extremely fast.
Can you play fast and play complementary football on both sides?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, without question. What you have to do is you just have to – it's all about made first downs. You know, like you got to make first downs. And so we play with a lot of tempo the other night. And, you know, it's about – if you're not making first downs and you're playing fast, then you put your defense at a disadvantage. If you're making first downs, you know, really it doesn't affect your defense at all.
You know, it looks like Riley's growing on both sides of the ball. Are you gonna what's the limits, and are you gonna have to make a decision sooner or later at some point to put him on?
Well, I think what the other team does on offense will determine how many snaps he's going to play on defense. So as he continues to progress, like on defense, like he's getting better every week. You know, it's all new to him, and so really encouraged by his growth on defense. And he's got some natural coverage skills. He had one ball caught on him the other night, and really that was because he should have been shaded outside. He was shaded inside. He should have been, if he was outside, he might have had a pick. And then he had a great break on the ball and got a PBU. Really, if he'd been playing just a little bit more, he probably would have undercut it and had a chance at a pick six. So I'm excited just watching him continue to grow. And then offensively, we tried to, you know, he just missed a couple big explosive plays. I think we targeted him 5 or 6 times in the game on Saturday. So he's going to continue to grow. Like he's going to play his snaps on offense and how we get him touches. You know, that'll continue to evolve. But defensively, it's going to depend on if we're playing a team like this week, he'll probably play more because they're more of a passing team. It's a lot of it's going to depend on what the other team's offense is doing.
A player like Desmond Reed as a running back who contributes so much in the passing game?
Well, first of all, you got to know where they're going to line him up a bunch of different places, so you got to know where he's at, and then you got to understand that your pursuit angle's got to be on point because he's going to win his share of one-on-ones. You know, we're not going to win every one-on-one tackling situation. I hope we do, but that's probably not the case. And so you got to do a really good job pursuing the football, and you got to take proper angles.
That first play you call during the week, not the script, like the start.
No, I put a good bit in. I usually start thinking about it Sunday, and then by Tuesday we're ready to rock and roll. Try to get first 3 or 4 plays where they get in a good rhythm. Yeah.
Before you actually see them on tape, or you just
No. I watch them. I watch them. You got to remember now. I watch most of these teams. I watch a lot of them in May. So I go through in May and make a bunch of notes, and then I kind of look at those notes right as we're in preseason camp because we practice our opponents in the evenings during our walkthrough. We practice opponent looks, and we practice some of the plays I think we'll run based on what I saw in May. And then when we get to the game week, I'll revisit those notes on Sunday, and then I'll watch, and then I'll revisit those notes, and then spend Monday watching everything, and then formulate kind of what our opening couple plays are going to be. And then those can change. We don't execute them, but for the most part, we put them in on Tuesday and then build kind of the rest of the script on Thursday.
Okay. Thank you very much, Coach.